Remember that show, what's it called? Hansen versus Predator, or Chris Hansen, you know? I'd be wondering, like, I know all of them not in jail right now at this point in time. Like, some of them might even gotta let go, the same day. This is supposed to give us insight on what happens after, you know.
Throughout the years, Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator has seen the most creeps, and we're going to be looking at what happened to them after their appearance on the show. Let's talk about John Kennelly, who's most notable for getting confronted twice in a 24-hour period. He went by the online persona Special Guy 29 and was engaging in graphic conversations with a boy that he believed to be 14 years old. Eventually, they would meet up at the Sting house. During the first encounter, he showed up completely naked while carrying a 12-pack of beer. Without giving the decoy a chance to walk out, Chris Hansen would confront the man and question his behavior. When his private messages were exposed, John would cut him off mid-sentence and explain that he was simply just chatting, to which Chris Hansen would fire back at him and yell this.
I'm serious. I was just chatting. I was just... Chatting? You're sitting in this kitchen naked, John. That's a step beyond chatting, isn't it?
John would later leave the house, in which it was assumed that he did learn his lesson, but this was totally wrong, because he was back online chatting to minors within a 24-hour period after being caught. He kept the same name screen Special Guy 29, but changed his actual name to Shane. While texting the decoy, they agreed to meet at a local McDonald's. When he was confronted waiting outside, he was in shock and had to say this.
I just came to get something to eat.
And I have very seldom been at a loss for words.
Sir, I just came to get something to eat.
Look. You
John
see the
later explained
background?
that he
Look at the background. Y'all see that logo right there? McDonald's. Only weirdos eat McDonald's.
seeing a psychiatrist, and that the reason behind his actions was due to a recent death in his family. The confrontation ends off with John walking to his car to drive away, but he wasn't going to be let off that easily. After this, the police raided his apartment to remove his computer. John Kennelly was arrested and charged by the Commonwealth for the use of communication systems to contact a minor. This carried a stance of up to 10 years in prison, but the charges would change after he pled guilty. Instead, later that year in September 2006, he was 3 years.
Think about what I just said to y'all. McDonald's, and you're a grown man eating McDonald's. How childish is it to still want McDonald's? You want your Happy Meal toy, a chicken nugget. Come on, bro. Y'all gotta grow up. Because then, in reality, y'all say, oh, it's just food. It's just something cheap real quick to have. No, it's not. You're destroying your biological being. Like, you're destroying your brain. That's why you're making dumbass decisions, like meeting up with a minor and like just being weird.
Probation, lifetime registration as a sex offender, and was ordered to have no unsupervised contact with anyone under the age of 18. This wasn't the end of it, however, as seen in the second encounter. John never learned his lesson. In March 2007, just a year later, two 15-year-old girls encountered a man while walking around Cub Run Park. The man was later identified to be none other than John Kennelly. This time, he was charged with 2 counts of exposure and was arrested at an adult detention center for violating his previous probation. However, it was unknown whether or not he received more jail time or extended probation. So, where is he now? As of June 2022, he was spotted by a To Catch a Predator fan at a hotel in southwestern Pennsylvania. The latest update regarding John was in October 2022, to which he was still unemployed according to the Virginia Sex Offender Registry. Now, if you thought John getting caught twice was bad, just wait till you hear about Jesse Velez, who insisted he didn't text a 13-year-old boy and pretended to act disgusted when his messages were read out to him. The 13-year-old boy managed to find Jesse on Grindr within 20 minutes of the account's creation. After sending unsettling messages and requests, they planned to meet up. When Jesse arrived at the house,
Look at this
he
weirdo.
seemed confused and told the boy that he looked much older. After requesting an ID from him, the boy insisted that he kept it in his mommy's purse, which he couldn't show at the time because she wasn't home. Chris Hansen would abruptly enter the kitchen and interrogate Jesse. He would ask him about the messages, and he would even show him nude pictures that he sent. Now, just take a look at his
13-year-old
extraordinary acting
little boy.
skills.
Manscaped is now going beyond the groin with the Beard Hedger electric beard trimmer. It comes
First of
with
all,
a rotary.
I've never sent nudes before. Second, what makes you want to send them to like a little boy? I don't know.
Oh my god, I did not know I even sent that. Ugh.
Nah.
Who was right?
Yeah, usually when I send a picture, like I have a bunch of pictures of me.
Right.
So I must have hit that, but I didn't really know why.
So this was just
Nah, you knew.
In the
You
end,
knew.
Jesse Velez received 5 years in prison with 2 to serve and had to register as a sex offender for 10 years. Shortly after, Jesse would post a now deleted Facebook post apologizing for his actions, which came with a bunch of mixed reactions. Towards the end of his statement, he said, "Other people want to look at me funny and call me names. Well, you know, one thing you can do is look in the mirror and ask if bullying is going to hurt me. Stop holding my actions against me and let me deal with it, and don't judge me based on what you read. Yeah boy, Jesse."
No,
Now
we're
this to
judging you
many
based
made
on
it seem
what
that
you
he
did.
didn't care about his actions at all, and it showed that he had absolutely no remorse, because essentially he was playing the victim. This was in 2016 however, and only 2 years later in April 2018, he would be released from prison shortly, but managed to find himself in prison once more in March 2020 for breach of peace in the 2nd degree after someone filed a restraining order on him. And as of today, he's still currently. At the time, he owned a mobile phone store and was robbed twice in one night. One commenter stated, "Dude was doing the community a favor by keeping him away from phones." And, well, were they wrong? Now, let's look at one of the most notorious predators, Lauren Armstrong. After numerous chats and phone calls between Lauren and the decoy, both planned to meet up together. Lauren was extremely excited when arriving at the decoy's house, and it wasn't only because he was going to meet the girl, it was also his 37th birthday. When approached by Chris Hansen, he blamed his behavior on a previous catfishing relationship with a woman he knew as Amanda James. The conversation wouldn't continue that long, as when Lauren attempted to escape, the officers quickly confronted him.
Come on,
During the
Lauren.
police interviews, he willingly allowed them to look through his computer and through his truck, despite knowing he had illegal evidence. It was only after they showed a nude picture of himself that he requested to see a lawyer. It only got worse for him when more evidence was brought up from his computer, and essentially he couldn't provide any answers for his actions. It was only after they showed a
Oh my god. I'm not judging him or anything, but you could just tell he's weird. Like, look at your hair. Look at your head. Like, if you're balding that much, you might as well just let it go. Like, let it go. Let it go.
nude picture of himself that he requested to see a lawyer.
Look.
It only got worse for him when more evidence was brought up from his computer, and essentially he couldn't provide any answers for his actions. Because of this, Lauren ended up being charged and was facing a 20-year prison sentence. In order to reduce that sentence, he took a plea deal, and instead,
Look at this.
he was sentenced to 7 years,
Kinda like
in which
Shrek.
both state and federal levels of prison had to be served concurrently. He served 5 of those years and was later given lifetime probation,
Yeah, so
and on
he
top
out
of
right
that,
now.
he had to identify as a registered sex offender. After being released from prison, Lauren decided to turn his life around. 2017, he created a YouTube channel that consisted of guitar, update, workout, and cooking videos.
Yeah, he
On
still
top of
look the
this, he
same.
started a t-shirt business.
same
His
little
channel
hat.
did receive some attention at first, but
Covering up
people
that
only
same
knew
old
him
ball
for the
spot.
wrong reasons. In an act of desperation, he decided to capitalize on this and promoted his business in numerous videos. One of the shirts he attempted to sell had the saying, "Don't yell at me, I'm sensitive." This was a contradiction to something he said while on the show. For legal reasons, however, he couldn't make profit from the shirt since he used an image from the show, which would count as copyright. And another reason was the Son of Sam law, which is a regulation that prevents criminals from making money from their offenses. Now, for some odd reason, someone actually bought the shirt for $40. While it was never confirmed it was shipped or not, that would technically be the only shirt ever sold, putting his business to failure. It was also during 2017 that there was a catfishing scandal against him. A person who identified themselves as Ramona tried to create a long-distance relationship with him with the main purpose of exploring who he was as a person. Calls between them would be uploaded, which exposed his private insecurities and even included his thoughts on his To Catch a Predator appearance. This was quickly shut down, however, as other people attempted to catfish him and things eventually got out of control. It seemed that nothing was going right for Lauren, and this would be proven even further in 2019. It was during this time that he was arrested once again after spending 5 years in a sex offender rehab class and not passing due to not taking responsibilities for his past actions. It was even reported that he showed up to one of the classes drunk, and this just proved that he wasn't taking it seriously. He could also no longer post on his YouTube channel as he wasn't allowed to access the internet due to his previous violations. It was also during this time in prison, he would write a novel titled Taken Abroad. But as expected, it received poor reviews due to people being aware of his backstory and not wanting to show any support to him whatsoever. He was hated so much that a religious group named the Church of God was created to intentionally mock him, as they would use his crimes and past mistakes as a fake sense of worship, with even some members confronting him in person and shaming him. 2 years later in May 2021, a video emerged that showed Lauren selling items at a garage sale, with people once again humiliating him by saying quotes from his To Catch a Predator appearance. The last update was in January 2023, in which the Church of God group pointed out on Google Maps that he no longer resides in Cornville, Arizona, as his trailer that he was living in was completely destroyed. But if we're going to talk about predators, Todd Spikes is one that should be mentioned. What made Todd different from the other predators on the show is that he didn't originally show up at the Sting house. Because of this, it was believed that he bailed out last second, and the Dateline's crew shut down the operation for the night. However, things took an unexpected turn as he would text a decoy at 1 in the morning, saying that he was going to arrive at the house. The police noted that he was suspiciously circling around the house in his van. This worried them, so they followed him around and arrested the man before he had a chance to enter the house. While they searched his van, officers were shocked to find out that he carried numerous guns, a chainsaw, tarp, ropes, and a boat anchor. Also, during this time, Todd was a police officer, and it seemed that he was going to do much worse after his van got exposed. And let's just say, things were not looking good for him. It was later stated that he wasn't authorized to keep all those weapons in his van, and instead, he could have stored them in the police station he worked for. To put things in perspective, he carried 800 rounds of ammunition while off duty. Wow, that's totally not suspicious, right? While investigation was going on, officers were able to search his home when they discovered multiple unmarked VHS tapes with undisclosed content. Todd was arrested and fired from his job 3 days after the incident, where he was then quickly released on a $10,000 bond. He had to fight the charges against him for around 3 years, in which he finally accepted a plea to keep him out of jail. Now, looking at what he was charged for and going back to the VHS tapes, it's safe to assume that we know exactly the type of content that were on those tapes. From all of this, Todd was given 10 years of probation and a lifetime registered sex offender status. However, only a couple years later, Todd was arrested at his home for violating the terms of his parole, and while in prison, he fought another man, which only increased his time by another 3 years. Todd was a free man, and this concerned many since his harsh actions led to minor consequences. The only other information I could find was that he worked at a family business known as Spike's Wholesale. It was also theorized that he could have lived in the store or nearby it, as one of his previous addresses was linked to the store, but as expected, this was never confirmed. Todd Spikes definitely should have received a much longer sentence, and many believe that he got away with it because he was a police officer and had power compared to other criminals. The last person we'll be looking at is Stanley Kendall, who at the time shockingly admitted that he was a middle school math teacher. When questioned whether or
look
not he had inappropriate conversations with students,
down bad.
Stanley replied that he successfully taught for 23 years and denied
Boy,
ever
you
talking
look
to
like
any
you on
student
your
in a
last
sexual
leg.
manner.
Look at him.
To prove his innocence even more, he brought up the topic of
Bro,
religion.
Look at this gremlin. Look at this gremlin. He knew the perk was fake, but he still ate it.
And explained that the part of him that's Christian would persuade the child against having sex
That
with
don't
him,
mean nothing.
to which Chris jokingly responds by saying this.
So what part of the Bible tells you to say all this kind of stuff here in the chat? I'd love to suck play and suck play with and lick nipples.
After their conversation, Stanley would be arrested, and during the police interview, he was extremely anxious and worried for his future as a teacher. Throughout the
There
interview,
is no
he mentioned
future
his
for
career
you
as
at
a
all, my
teacher
guy.
and viewed himself as an
You got like a
excellent
good
one.
more 5
Adding
years
on to
and you're
this,
gone.
he even states that his principal is going to be shocked
old.
when they find out about his arrest. This entire interview just proved that he did not care about what he did at all. He only cared about his career and how it would affect him. Following the arrest, his bail was sent to $50,000.
Look at him.
However, in June 2007, Stanley's charges would be dropped, along with all the other predators that had
like a
been caught
little
on the
gremlin.
show. This was because of the death of Assistant District Attorney Louis
Look at
Conrad,
this lollipop
a
looking
predator
blue dude.
himself after being caught on a show, which eventually led to the show ending. After he was set free, the Texas Education Agency would permanently revoke
Wow.
Stanley's teaching license.
That's bull.
But years later in 2013, he moved to Warsaw, Indiana, where he got a substitute teacher license
man
at
loves
Plymouth
little
Public
kids.
School. No one knew about his background until a year later after someone recognized him. They notified Plymouth School's administration, and it had been discovered that he had been a substitute teacher for multiple school districts. He was also meant to work for another district named Penn Harris Madison, but before he could even transfer, the district was notified about his background, and so Stanley was removed from the system. What I find to be the most scary part about this is how all of his charges were dropped. Think about it, there was actual evidence against him,
This man
and just because
loves
of that
little
person's
kids.
death and the controversy surrounding it, everyone who made an appearance on the show, who are by the way evil people, got away free. And something that should be noted,
bro.
Stanley taught for 7 years after the incident.
Yeah, bro. That can't happen, bro. We gotta do something about this education system or judicial system or whatever it is, bro. There's no way you could be a predator, get caught, get out, and still be allowed to be around little kids. Like, what? That just don't make any kind of sense at all. But anyway, man. Deuces.